So I want to do more videos talking about what I call the higher dark. It's a concept that, uh, in pop culture, there's a lot of stuff in Wicca and any of these kind of meditational things where darkness is considered bad. I disagree with that. Um, I have a whole blog that's about the higher dark, and I wanted to read out for you some of the entries that I've written over the years. So, because I know I can get TLDR a lot, and so figured people might enjoy me turning these into some sound bites for you. I'm going to start with a shorter entry, but I mainly picked this one out because at this time it's getting close to Christmas, and this one is about Nightmare Before Christmas. The title is Good Nightmare, um, and it's not really a movie review. I imagine that if any of you who are interested in this kind of stuff have seen this over and over, just like I have. And so, well, I want to talk more about it later. But this is one of my movies. This is my Christmas movie. This is the one I watch along with Hogfather and Scrooge and some of the little bit darker movies. Those are the ones that I like to see every year. So I'm just going to jump into it. Like I've said before in other blog entries, it's hard to pin down a definition of the higher dark. A phrase that I picked up from the movie High Noon, of all things, is if you don't know, I can't explain it. Some of you reading this blog might already be nodding and saying, oh, thank God, Goddess, and anybody else who's listening, I'm not the only one, or something similar to that. But for those still unsure about looking deeper into that scrying mirror, let me examine one of my favorite examples of the higher dark making its presence known in our media, Nightmare Before Christmas. Well, that and other Tim Burton films, but Nightmare seems to be the most popular, and certainly one that I've watched over and over and over and over, enough to speak about it knowledgeably. Why is it that we love Jack and his folly? It's a simple enough storyline. A man is bored with his work, discovers someone else's wonderful world, tries to copy it, and finds out it's not for him. But that break from normality revitalizes him and others in his world. There's something about those Halloweentown critters, isn't there? I propose that we love them because they are innocent monsters. They like being scary. They're happy living at night and wearing black and keeping pet insects and ghosts, trimming their flower buds from their prize thorn bushes, etc. They know who they are, they love their work, and they don't have to be our culture's idea of normal to achieve that happiness. Quite the opposite. The stranger they get to be, the happier they are. But Jack is the creative one, and also under a good bit of pressure. So he seeks something new and powerful, a break from the routine. For many of us out there, the seeker is the archetype that we relate to the most. But what he finds is not always his to take. So he makes mistakes, but he manages to fix them, and he finds things that he truly needs, such as the love of his life, and his new inspiration, and that's what he sought all along. But most importantly, he finds himself. Freaky and dead as he is, he knows who he is. I believe that part of yourself resides in the darkness. Okay, and that was it for that particular entry. This I wrote in February of 2011. Have I had more insights since then? Yes, I certainly have. Um, so there's a few things I want to add to this. At that time, I was just getting into the higher dark stuff. I started this in January of 2011. So I was trying to write something like as frequently as I could, once a week. I haven't been able to keep up with that, sadly. The last few years, I've moved out to Arizona because I lived in South Carolina at the time, taking on a full-time job, so I've had less time to actually do any of this. But I try to keep up with it when I have a new idea. So back then, I had a lot more just little things that I had a list of things I wanted to talk about, and this was one of them. And I mentioned it being popular, and that's one reason that I chose this is and that I wanted to start this blog was that there are certain aspects, there are little things, I talk about this in a different blog entry, where the dark shows up in pop culture, and people seem to latch onto it, and that's one reason I wanted to talk about it. So, let me look at my notes here. So I had, I wanted to mention a couple of other Tim Burton stories, things that have come out since then. As he's gotten more and more popular, more of his stuff has been, I feel like he hasn't got as many critiques of it. Like, if he puts it out, people are going to go see it. So, stuff like Dark Shadows. There's another very dark IP that he worked on, and I feel like it fell short of my expectations. They made it into a comedy. They made it a lot less dark than it could have been. It had some great moments. There's this scene where they're playing Knights in White Satin, and they're zooming in on the girl, and, that's beautifully done. It has some moments that I think are hilarious, like the little girl at the end. Spoilers. She turns out to be a werewolf. And they bust into her room, and she's like, "Get out of my room!" Stuff like that was funny. It had its moments, but it was, overall, I was disappointed with it. So I don't idolize Burton by any means. And there were, various other ones that I love or don't love. Other things I mentioned at the beginning, Hogfather. This is a Terry Pratchett story, and it's very, very similar to the Nightmare Before Christmas story. In fact, I think it may have come out afterwards, but it's the same kind of thing. This time it's death becoming Santa Claus, but it's for completely different reasons. And if you haven't read any Terry Pratchett's work, and you like the higher dark, or you like magic, or you like fantasy, you have to read Terry Pratchett. Start somewhere in the middle of his Discworld series. Start with Tiffany Aching series, whatever. But this particular book, Hogfather, is from the Death series. It starts with either Reaper Man or Mort. Those kind of go together. But it's brilliant what he does with the character of Death. And so that's a good one to, at Christmas time, get into the Death series. Read the first couple of books so that you're all caught up, and then read Hogfather. And you'll be more familiar with the characters if you read the first two. I think there's 2 books before that. And so Hogfather's a really good example, too, of the same kind of thing. The theme here with Nightmare is finding yourself by going around your elbow and trying something else and finding out that it doesn't work for you. And you come back to yourself in doing that, and you find new inspiration in who you are. There's another side of that, which I think with the Nightmare Before Christmas, you can misinterpret it as there's this idea that you can only ever be what you were made to be. And I've seen a handful of movies. I've sort of seen Wreck-It Ralph. I overheard somebody else while they were listening to it in the background, and it had this sort of same theme as well. Like, Ralph he just can't get it together as he's trying to be something other than what he was designed to be, and then he ends up going back to what he was and being happy with that. And I don't like that thing. I really don't, because I think where you come from, while it influences you greatly, while your parents influence you and your teachers and all of that kind of stuff, you are who you decide to be. You are who you make yourself to be. But there is that thing, too, of finding out who you truly are, and don't try to be something that you're really not. Something that you may think is a great idea, but is it your great idea, or is it somebody else's idea of what's great? So that's a concept. You got to find a balance between the two, and having lived a little more life since then, discovering. I mean, when I was in high school, I thought I could be an actress, I could be a singer, I could be, or a rock star or whatever. I had this plethora of things that I was doing in high school. Now, as I've gotten older, I've discovered, you know what? I tried some different professions. I tried being an artist more and trying to sell art. And the more I do, the more I discover I'm a writer. From the very beginning, I have wanted to write stories and write books and publish them and all that kind of stuff. You know, I want to do illustrations for them as well because I see movies in my head, but that being a writer is who I truly am. So if you're in high school and you think you have all these things that you want, there's probably just one of them. And it's going to be hard. It may take you 20 years to figure out which one is the one that you want to follow for the rest of your life. And that's okay. Try different things. Don't think you have to stick with one thing, but find the core of yourself if you can. And I think that's an important balance to find. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but that's okay. And coming back to Nightmare, there is a character in Nightmare that kind of comes into their own, and that's Sally. You know, when it gets to be Halloween and they're selling all the costumes and stuff, I'm not big impressed with the Sally costumes. She's such a mousy character in a lot of ways. She doesn't appeal to me that much, but she is the strong female character here, and she is strong. She's the one who goes out on her own and tries to rescue Santa Claus by herself and uses her powers as a ragdoll to try and do that. She ultimately doesn't succeed, and Jack has to come in and take care of it, but she tries. She gains the courage to not only leave her oppressive father figure, but to do that. So in the end, she's comes into her own as just as much as Jack does. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And like I said, I want to get into more of these blog entries. A lot of them are a lot longer than this, so hopefully this will work. And so I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. What I want you to do with these is not so much to show off my old work or have you look at my artwork that I've done. And, you know, I like compliments, but I'm not fishing here. I want you to find inspiration. And you can thank YouTube for me making more videos because they're requiring that now. And I apologize for any production quality issues. And because I only have so much time. Like I said, I have a full-time job. Hopefully that won't always be a thing. I am working on a couple of novels that I want to put out eventually. Seems like everybody has a book on YouTube these days, but you know, I'm going to try. Mine are going to be along these same lines with these themes while still having good stories. They are going to be fiction. They're going to be mostly fantasy, realistic fantasy as much as I can make them. So that's just a personal plug. Thank you so much for coming and watching this, and hopefully you'll come back and find out more about the Higher Dark series. I do, like I said, I have a blog. It's on WordPress. I'll put the link down below. It's rachelhwhite.wordpress.com. That's my Higher Dark blog, and I also have my Indie Shamanka blog. So, hopefully you will take the time to check that out, or you can wait until I do some more readings. And thank you so much for your time. I hope this has inspired you, and I hope, hello, my cat's coming to visit me. And this is all about inspiring you to be more who you are, to discover more of who you are, to go within the darker parts of yourself and not be afraid of them. And I hope you get something from it. Thank you so much.